Ainda no noticiário internacional, a CNN apurou que a Ucrânia está por trás da morte de um general da Rússia hoje em Moscou. O militar era acusado pelo uso de armas químicas na guerra e foi morto depois que uma bomba foi detonada de forma remota. A Rússia já prometeu vingança e disse que vai destruir os mandantes do crime em Kiev. O repórter da CNN Internacional, Fred Pleitgen, esteve no local da explosão e conta o que ele testemunhou.
Yeah, we are actually at the scene of where this explosion took place, and the Russians are saying this happened in the early morning hours of today as the general and an aide to the general were leaving that building. I'm going to get out of your way and you can see the actual scene of where all of this took place. And you already mentioned that the entrance to that building where all this happens, the second entrance down from here, was badly damaged in that explosion. And the Russians are indeed saying that they believe that the explosive device was hidden in an electric scooter parked right outside that building, and that there were about 300 grams of TNT inside that explosive device. They have already said that they found remnants of that explosive device, and one of the other things that they've said as well is that they believe that it was detonated remotely. Now, we do know at this point in time, Max, that the Ukrainian security services have claimed responsibility for this, a source saying that to CNN that Ukrainian security services were behind this. The explosion, despite the fact that 300 grams of TNT might not sound like very much, seems to have been substantial. We can see that there's a lot of workers here on the ground, investigative committee of the Russian Federation on the ground. Some others have cordoned off the area. But one of the other things that we're seeing as well, Max, if we pan over to the other side, is that the explosion was so strong that it damaged the building on the other side of the road. You can see there that windows have been smashed by this explosion that took place. There was an eyewitness report that we have seen, some of them on Russian media are saying that they thought that maybe some sort of cement truck had unloaded a lot of cement or what something very heavy had fallen down on the ground. So clearly the people who live in this area very much heard this explosion as it took place. Of course, at the beginning, not exactly clear of what it might have been. The Russians have launched a criminal investigation into all this. You can see the investigators, and we've seen the investigators on the ground here, not just civilian investigators or from the police authorities, but also military investigators as well. Of course, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, very important for the Russian military, very high up in the Russian military. He was the head of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical defense forces, and the Ukrainians had actually indicted him in absentia just yesterday. The Ukrainian security services accusing the Russians of using weaponized chemicals in the war in Ukraine. Igor Kirillov, for his part, in the past, had accused the Ukrainians of doing the exact same thing. So certainly someone who was on the forefront as far as that conflict between Ukraine and Russia is concerned, and someone who the Russians, of course, for their military was extremely important.